To the January 10th, 2023 Development Review Commission hearing. The Development Review Commission is created to hold public meetings and hearings to provide analysis and recommendations to the City Council regarding general land use policies and applications, where Commission has recommendatory power, and to render final decisions on specified applications where the Commission has final decision-making power, including, but not limited to, all aspects of a proposed and future development. The Development Review Commission recognizes that the creation of a desirable environment throughout the city for residents, business, and industry is a prime requisite for the interdependence of land values, aesthetics, and good site planning by promoting harmonious, safe, attractive, and compatible development that is therefore considered to be in the best interests of public health, safety, and general welfare. Any person aggrieved by a final decision of the Development Review Commission may file an appeal to the City Council within 14 calendar days after the Development Review Commission has rendered its decision. Development Review Commission recommendations to the City Council are not final decisions. Here with us today on the commission, we have Commissioners Michelle Schwartz, Don Casano, Vice Chair Andrew Johnson. I'm Chairman Mike DiDomenico. To my left, we have Commissioners Barbara Lloyd, Linda Spears, and Joe Forte. With us from staff, today we have Jeff Tamulevich, Ryan Levesque, Steve Abrahamson, Saparna Dasgupta, Diana Kaminsky, Lee Jimenez, Karen Stovall, Obinia Kingsby II, Joanna Berry, and Jason Wolf. Member of the public, if you are here to speak on a particular case, we're going to take them in order that they're on the tonight's agenda. If you're interested in being heard on a specific case, make sure to fill out a white card, either get them in the back of the room or up here at front, and give them to staff before we call the case up. Otherwise, we're going to pass you by and we're going to miss you. If it looks like that's about to happen, jump up and down, wave your arms, catch my attention, and we'll make sure to give you a chance to be heard. It is our intention tonight to deal with several of the items that are on our agenda as a part of our consent agenda. And what a consent agenda means is we're going to take several of the cases that we do not need to hear. We discussed them in study session and identified several cases that I'm going to read off now. And those are going to be voted in one single vote. And the intention is to pass them all with that one single vote. So if you are here to speak against or want to be heard specifically on one of those cases on the consent agenda, again, get my attention and stop us from doing so, and we'll remove it from the consent agenda. Tonight, our consent agenda will be items 4, Apache River Apartments, item 5, El Dorado 4, item 7, the Shepherd Residence, and item 8, Goldwater Tap House. Anybody here to be heard on any of those 4 items? Yes. Which item? The Shepherd Castle. Okay. Yeah, you're part of the applicant team, right? Okay. So yeah, you wouldn't want to speak if you're okay with us just approving it as a part of the consent agenda. Not that we wouldn't want to hear from you, but I think that's the way to go here. All right, so that leaves us with items 3, Roosevelt 11, 6, the Chill Room, and 9, Curry Road Apartments that we're going to have individual hearings for. So that's how we're going to handle tonight's agenda. That brings us to items 1 and 2, and those are our minutes for the study session and regular meeting of November 15th, 2022. We discussed those in study session. We have no amendments or changes to those. I'd entertain a motion for approval.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Casano, I would make a motion for approval of the study session minutes for the 11/15/2022 Development Review Commission and the regular meeting of 11/15/2022 for approval.
Do we have a second? Second. Commissioner Spears. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And those opposed, none. And let the record show that myself and Vice Chair Johnson are abstaining because we were not in attendance at that meeting. Those minutes are approved 5-0. All right, I will now entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda. Commissioner Lloyd? Oh,
Johnson got it.
okay. Vice Chair?
I move for the approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Second.
And it's been moved by Vice Chair, seconded by Commissioner Lloyd. All those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Consent agenda is approved. That brings us to our first hearing. That is item number 3. This is a development plan review for a new 2-story single-family development consisting of 11 dwelling units. Project is known as Roosevelt 11 Homes. I'd ask the applicant to come up and give us your presentation.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name's Jerry Palmer. I'm with, yes.
Use this to control your presentation.
Oh, thank you. I'm with Palmer Architects at 4545 North 36th Street in Phoenix, Arizona. And the project today that we're looking at is the single-family attached homes on Roosevelt and 7th Street on the north west corner. It's 606 South Roosevelt Street. And this is a 0.56 acre site. It's zoned R3. And we have 11 units we're proposing on the site. They're all 3-bedroom, 3-bath, and each unit is approximately 1,450 square foot livable. The 2-story units have a roof deck on top of the roof for recreation, and they also have patios that are enclosed by a low wall to give recreational amenities, in addition to a ramada and barbecues and the open space on the site. Basically, we're under 30 foot in height. We've got 28% landscape. We've got 25 parking spaces, 22 are required, and bicycle parking as well. The structure is composed of stucco, steel, and brick-type structure. It's heavily landscaped, both on the side streets and within the interior courts. And the buildings are broken up into different modules, a total of 11 homes. We've tried to create a pleasant-looking residential scale project and create the amenities that are needed to complement the residences in this project. If there's any questions I can answer, I'd be glad to at this time. Yeah, so so here's the photographs of the areas. You can see the site plan here. We have 5 buildings on 7th Street. Patios face 7th Street. And then we have 3 duplexes on the north side of the property. With the driveway in the center, they each have a 2-car garage. And kind of a summary of the standards that we're providing. Kind of general renderings of the units. Floor plans, you can see the first floor is a 2-car garage. The guests that come to this unit will enter through the private courtyard into the foyer. And there's a master suite on the lower level. There's a number of slightly different configurations. Here is the character of the buildings. And some additional perspectives. This one's in color. The small common area that's on the property. And the streetscape on Roosevelt. And the interior courtyard that each unit has its own two-car garage. And again, the guests that visit the site would enter through the opposite side as the garage into the courtyard. You can see some of the steel, the stucco, and the brick look veneer. The interior courtyard of each unit with a little private court. And I think that's it.
Commissioner Spears.
My concern has to do with the 7th Street facing property where you have the 5 units that are all in one line. You've done a nice job on the other side of the property doing the duplexes with the open space in between. So if I'm living in the middle unit on that 7th Street side, how do my guests approach my property?
You're asking how the guests approach the property?
Or if I'm in the parking lot in the back and I want to get to my front door, how do I do that rather than walking all the way around? And my point is, it's just, I'd like to see a break in the property. It's a design issue. I just think it's too, again, I'm going to use monolithic. Just at your sight line, you're looking at just a big mass of buildings rather than having what I think is a better design on the duplex side.
Well, I think to answer your first question, again, the guests would come in from the guest parking area, and they would walk around. In this case, it's 7th Street facing, and you can see the front door on the left of the rendering. So they would enter into the private courtyard to the front door.
You have, show one of the site plans or a top-down view. Remind us where the guest parking is.
So there's guest parking here next to the common area. And over on the left-hand side, there's 3 guest parking spaces total.
With the third being designated as a handicapped accessible space, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So if someone's in space 1, 2, or 3, to get to those 5 units, as Commissioner Spears asked, you walk past the common area or basically along the drive or along the driveway access off of 7th, come down the sidewalk and enter the private courtyards of those 5 units
That's correct.
to get to the 5. As opposed to walking down the private drive and
Yes, the private drive would be
doesn't get you access.
strictly for the user's access. He would, of course, go through the garage door, and the occasional guest, or when that happens, would come off the 7th Street side on Building D.
Got it. Commissioner Spears, other comments or questions at this point? Commissioners? Commissioner Casano.
It's a follow-on question. I'm looking at the 5 units on 7th Street, and if my guest parking is to the west, if I'm in the furthest east unit and I'm not parking on Roosevelt, I have to walk 5 units to get to the front door. versus the ones that are closer. Am I correct on that?
Yes, you are.
It seems it's rather cumbersome for any visitor to want to visit there, and with only 3 visitor parking places, to me, there could be more going on a weekend, and when there are functions going on downtown, Roosevelt's going to probably have cars parked all over. So I echo those points, is that it doesn't provide a lot of easy access for the owners, visitors to access their units. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Okay. We're going to have staff add to the presentation, then give you a chance to come back and respond to anything that's brought up, either already or anything new that staff brings up. Does that work for you?
Yes, that'd be fine.
Perfect.
I'd like to mention too, there's also quite a bit of street parking.
Yeah. And there's no restrictions on the streets, 7th or Roosevelt, it's there?
No.
We'll ask. Yeah, I'm sure that that's something staff's also considered also.
So I think if you were on the far east side, you could basically park as a guest next to the unit on the far east side.
Okay. Thank you. Hold tight, and we'll have staff come up and add to the presentation. And
Okay. Hi, Karen.
Right. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Karen Stovall, Senior Planner. I will be brief. So this site is located at the northwest corner of Roosevelt and 7th Street and is zoned R3. The applicant requests a development plan review for a new 2-story single-family attached development consisting of 11 units. As previously discussed, the proposal includes 4 2-story buildings. Each unit will contain a 2-car garage, and the garages would be accessed by a private driveway or private drive that has driveways on both Roosevelt and 7th Street. And there are 3 guest parking spaces. I don't know, no, I guess I won't be able to show you. So the one space is west of Building A, which is in the northwest corner of the site, and then the other 2 spaces are on the west end of Building D along 7th Street. The landscape plan is proposing Chinese elm trees along 7th Street and pistache and cascalote along Roosevelt, and there's a ramada and barbecue proposed in the common area just west of Building D. The buildings are 28 feet high with a roof deck for access to rooftop mechanical, and the buildings are primarily finished with an off-white brick veneer, stucco, black vertical siding, and black architectural shingles on the pitched roofs. There are low walls constructed of masonry to be used around the patios, and a 6-foot-high masonry wall around the yards of the units that are adjacent to the north property line. So these are the various building elevations. This is Building D along 7th Street, and then the other 3 buildings along the north property line. The end units for Building C, the unit at the northeast corner of the site, the front door would face Roosevelt Street, and that's in the elevation in the lower right-hand corner of this slide. And these are the renderings. The applicant went over those. A neighborhood meeting was not required for this project, and staff has not received any public input. We are recommending approval of the request subject to the conditions in the staff report. As far as the question about parking, there is no restricted parking on either of the streets. However, during trash and recycling pickup days, vehicle parking would be restricted because the cans would be rolled out to the curb along both street frontages. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Vice Chair.
I do have a question on your last point, and something that was said earlier. Along 7th, the south side of the road is not complete. It's kind of a ditch area with a lot of trees and whatnot still there. Is that going to be improved with this project? Because otherwise there is no street parking.
For the frontage of this project, curb, gutter, and sidewalk will be installed, yes.
What about on the south side of 7th Street?
This project is not required to do anything that is not adjacent to the site.
So that does not leave any room for parking on 7th.
On the north side of the street.
It's 2 lanes. There's only literally 2 lanes to get 2 cars through.
Unless it is signed for no parking, vehicles are permitted to park there. So if it is signed that way, but to my knowledge, it is not signed for no parking. So if a car would be parked there and there's an oncoming vehicle, they would have to go around it, basically. It's not signed for no parking at this time.
It's not signed for no parking?
no.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions?
I just have a comment, more so than a question. On the elevations, it did look like the brick veneer was wrapping all the way around the building, but on the renderings, it didn't. So I think just for consistency and not just appearing as a veneer, making sure that that wraps around the building would be important visually.
So could you give an example on this one, or is it the rendering that doesn't match the elevation? You prefer the
Correct.
elevations? Okay.
The brick veneer ends prior to the building continuing around the corner.
Okay, so if it gets approved and goes to construction documents, the elevations and what's actually approved will have to match these building elevations, not the renderings. So I do understand your concern if they
Perfect.
don't
Thank you.
match.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, at this time, I would call the applicant back up, see if you have anything else you'd like to add. Reminder to the public, we don't have any comment cards, but if anybody is here to be heard on this case, make sure to get a card up here.
No, I don't really have anything additional to add at this time.
Okay. Any last questions for the applicant? No? Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, last call. Anybody, raise your hand. You're here to be heard? No? Seeing none, we'll close the public comments portion of the hearing, and I would encourage discussion or motions amongst the commission. No comments, no discussion? Do we have a motion with regard to the case?
Chairman, I do have.
Commissioner Spears.
One of my concerns is the design of this with 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and it, in all likelihood, would become rental property. And the parking really, to me, is an issue. Even 2 cars in a garage, that's nice if you have a family living in it, but it's unlikely in this particular neighborhood that that's what you're going to have. And so, and again, I just don't like the design of the 7th Street, but I think it is an issue.
So your concern is that the 2 spaces per garage per unit plus 3 visitor parking spaces and anything else, since they're all 3-bedroom units, and if they become rentals, you expect that there's a need for at least 3 cars per unit just for the residents, and that pushes it out onto the street. I follow. Okay. Commissioner Lloyd.
And then one follow-up on that maybe Karen or the applicant can clarify. I think the application said 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, but in the presentation you said 3 and 3. So can you clarify that?
Yes, it's actually 2.5 baths.
Okay.
Whether that makes a difference, I just wanted to point.
Just for the record, the applicant said that it's actually 2.5 bath count for each of the 11 units.
And Chairman and Commission members, just on the parking, one other point from the ZDC standpoint, single-family residential is required to have 2 parking spaces, and these are considered single-family, so therefore the guest parking is just additional in this case, just a clarifying point from the code issue.
Got it. So it's meeting code, is what you're saying, for single-family residential. All right. Other comments, motions? Vice Chair.
I'll move for the approval of, I don't have it in front of me. PL 220141.
With the conditions as stipulated.
As written.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have Commissioner Forte, second. Discussion, additional discussion. Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? The motion carries 6-1. Commissioner Spears in dissent. Thank you very much. That brings us to our next case to hear. This is item number 6, known as the chill room. This is a request for 2 separate use permits, one dealing with tobacco retail use and the second dealing with live entertainment.
Right. Good evening, Council. My name is Sal Cartagini from Fountain Hills, and I'd like to present to you the Chill Room, which is a kava lounge. And right there, hang on a second. For those of you who aren't familiar with kava lounges, they're trending social gathering places for younger and older folks alike. Kava is a healthier and safer alternative to alcohol. And that seems to be what's going on. People looking for places to congregate and gather, but they're avoiding, all the negative effects and the side effects, and also the atmosphere that sometimes alcohol-based establishments can provide. So our chill room fills a void for people looking for that situation. There are people looking for an alternative to the bar scene. As you can see in these photos here, this is the flagship. This is a franchise-based operation out of Florida, and standing next to me is Robert Cartagini, who is the president of the franchise, and we're looking to expand in here in Arizona and Tempe. So the pictures you see is his place. He's got 4 other locations in Florida, so we're going out to the good old West to try to get it going here. It's very, very trendy in the East Coast. But as I go around Tempe, I think you just have one that's just opened up in West Broadway, and there's 5 or 6 others. So we're looking to bring it to a little bit of a different level. It's for 18 and over. In addition to the kava, we serve tea, coffees, herbal teas. We're going to offer snacks, games, and also an important component of this is music entertainment. Okay. We're also looking to put a separate retail vape shop for patrons over 21. So that's where we going for the live entertainment permit here, because music and entertainment is a really important part. It's not a live music venue in the traditional sense, and try to point that out as you see. It's basically we do open mic nights, we do game nights, we do trivia nights, poetry reading for whoever wants it, and things like that. So we attract local talent and artists. We won't be charging tickets at the door. There's no advance reservation. It'd be like if your patrons want to, have a musical jam night and things like that. So that's what we're looking to do. Now, part of it, it's going to be a small area. The area, as you'll see, is about 2,500 square feet. We've put about 300 square feet for a small vape shop. And we've got a lot of products, accessories that cater to that. And again, only patrons over 21 are allowed in. It's a separate area. You have to, show ID to get it in this particular section, outside the communal section. Okay, what you're looking at here is that in the franchise location in Florida, they have glass blowing. They have a studio. We will not be doing that in this particular location. However, it's one of the things that makes us different. They do craft and artist work, and that'll be consigned throughout some of the franchise locations. And what we're really looking to do is up the game a little bit rather than your average vape shop, have quality products and just a little smaller. And what we find, we find a high trend of seniors coming into the vape shops because they're a little bit more comfortable there, they're a little less intimidated, and we've seen that trend happening. So it's very, you know, what's the word? It's unintimidating.
Upscale
Yeah,
and
upscale.
non-intimidating.
Yeah, non-intimidating. So we've seen a lot of growth in that. So,
Yeah, I might add that in Florida, when they legalized medical marijuana, a lot of the seniors, it's a very senior community, especially where we are in South Florida, they were looking for a smoke shop or a tobacco store that was modern and upscale and, you know, a little bit more pleasing to the eye and had better, higher quality products. And we've become that de facto standard. So we intend to replicate that throughout the chain. So, you know, even though vape is a very important component, the tobacco end is as well. And we cater to, you know, more of an upscale, older crowd in our particular retail space.
even though it's a corporate franchise, they hear that it's going to be a family-run business. But the reason I wanted to start this is I went to Florida to visit. He's my cousin. We have the same last name. That's not a coincidence. And he runs it with his wife and his two children. And I have the same situation. That's my wife there. And in fact, right now my son is in Florida working and learning the business.
Training,
Yeah, he's being mentored. And that's what started this whole thing. I see how they're together. So, and the key to his success there is that the family runs it. And he's created a really good community where people feel comfortable. I don't know if you've seen some of the letters I was asked to hand in a packet, 4 letters in there. And it really goes to the essence of how people feel about the space we want to create. So we will be there. I'm not going to just hire a manager and just let it go. My son's going to be there. I'm going to be there. We're all going to be there. And I think that's the way to make it successful. So there we are. Where this is going to be located, we're looking at the, to the left, you can't see it, but that's Dorsey on the left side, and we're on Broadway. So it's right in that shopping center. We have the last space to be developed there. And if you look towards the top there, it's 2,528 square feet at that location. In the site plan, this is how the square footage will be portioned out. I can point to, we have the open area there in the middle, about 1,300 square feet next to the service area. And then if you can see the retail area, and we have a door, and you would need identification. You'd have to prove your age to get in that section of there. We've had a seating plan. We have a total of 49 seats in that range, low, you know, mid-40s. And you see to the right, we're going to create a nice space. We want to put couches and a sense of community, and we'll put some tabletops. And there's the bar area. And there's a little corporate information. So that's it's kind of unique. I've had a little challenge in describing what we're doing because we're a little vape, we're a little, you know, little food and the snacks. Yeah. So, you know, any questions you have, I'd be happy to answer. That's why we're here. By the way, no alcohol.
No alcohol.
No alcohol. Got that? Okay, good. No alcohol.
You said, now you and your family live in Fountain Hills?
Yes. Yeah.
How did you pick Tempe? If it's a
If you have
family-run
to ask
business,
that, I
it's a
don't know.
drive.
Yeah.
It's,
No, that's so. Well, my son lives right on the border of Mesa, and he's
Okay.
going to be there. This is his main focus. My sons live but in Fountain Hills, 30 minutes isn't that far. But I'm going to relocate there for at least, you know, for a while. Yeah, we'll have someone, the way at least 2 of us will be there at the locations, and then we'll hire out, you know, a manager or something as the need arises. So, yeah.
questions, Commissioner Spears?
I don't have any issue with the entertainment side of it. I'm concerned about the vape retail. And you showed the retail space in the back. Tell me how is it glassed in? Is it a separate partition so that it's not part of the other environment? And then this is a college town, obviously. We have lots of kids around. How are you going to prevent the use of the product in the area? I would love to say seniors are going to go there, but they're not going to go to this location. You're going to get kids.
Yeah. Well,
And so how are you going to control the use of the vape, and particularly outside the front of the property, the parking lot? I mean, I think this is the one that's been a bar for a long time. There's been live entertainment in the center in the past. So I don't think that that's an issue, but I am concerned about the vaping.
In our corporate store in South Florida, It's a very similar setup. Ours is more of a railroad type effect. So you have to walk through the Kava Lounge to get to the retail space. So we've sectioned it off here as well. And it is a room, a separate room. There will be a window on the front-facing side and a doorway into the retail space on the side. As far as vaping, are you saying, how would we prevent people from vaping inside the space?
Inside and the parking lot.
Yeah, well, in our space in South Florida, we are allowed to vape indoors. It hasn't been an issue. There are places that we are looking at where they would require a specific ventilation system. That is something that Sal's considering as well. So we would have a separate ventilation if we could do vape inside. And
I've spoken to Larry at the, he's a mechanical guy, I'm sorry, his last name escapes me. But we've had a discussion about it following the Universal 2018 code, what's required with vaping. And we're in the process of doing that now and putting it into our business plan. Because obviously it's an additional expense we want to account for to find out exactly where we are. So.
And I would say, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I would say that percentage-wise of the customers in our store that dwell, I would say probably 30 to 40% vape. The balance don't vape. They never seem to be troubled by any side stream vapor, but I can understand that potentially being a concern. But that's, how it plays out in our particular venue.
Other questions? Commissioner Forte.
Okay. So I'm not too familiar. Was it Kava that you said? So is it like a vape bar per se?
No.
Okay.
I mean, vape is a component because we
course.
have the retail. It's more the kava that's the
draw.
the draw. Yeah. And it's a root from the Polynesian islands. The islanders have been using it for thousands of years. It's got a very relaxing and calming effect. It's also a very good social lubricant, if you will. However, it doesn't have any of the side effects. You don't get inebriated. You could operate a motor vehicle. That's why people are aspiring to it. It's a huge trend. In Florida, there's probably 200 or 300 kava bars throughout the state. We've done it a little different, and we have a little bit of a different following. We have an older crowd in our particular space, but it's trending everywhere.
I was wondering if you had any backup plans for if the vape ban gets passed, because I'm sure you're well aware that.
Yeah,
Tempe is looking
I'm aware of
into-
it, been following it very closely.
Right.
Sure, I'm in the crossfire. All of a sudden, we decide to put this component in to find out it's an issue. Yeah, as far as the retail sales, as far as the percentage and the generation of income, if that component with flavored vape were to be taken out, it wouldn't affect tremendously the bottom line. Yeah.
So the smoke
If I was
shop would
opening up a
still-
vape shop completely, I would have second
Yeah,
thoughts.
it's a
it.
much
More of a
smaller
smoke
component.
shop,
Yeah, it's more of
glass
a
type
and we tend to favor American glass artists that make. It's a craft. It's an age-old craft. That's why our corporate store has the glass blowing studio, because we frequently bring in glass artists from all around the country that come in and they'll do an expo and they'll create a beautiful work of art. So our retail space is actually called a glass gallery because we feature a lot of glass art. I think there's one or two slides in there that show that glass art. So percentage-wise, vape is definitely a component, no doubt, but it's a small enough component that if we had to reduce it to just, I think you guys were thinking just tobacco flavored, no flavored vapes.
Right.
Our focus is on healthy alternatives. We would add other healthy alternative components, his son is a
Nutritionist.
naturopath, so, there's definitely other things we could use to supplement that small percentage of revenue.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure
Yeah,
that
no,
it
it's
wasn't
great.
leaning on
Yeah.
the tobacco part, and then if there's a ban, then you're out of business next month.
Yeah. Okay,
But good to know.
We definitely
That's all I want.
researched that, knowing that, we found out what's happening here.
Other questions? All right, hold tight, staff. Do we want to add anything into the mix? Is there anything that Anybody have any questions for staff?
Diana?
No?
Sorry.
All right, I think we can get by without any additional. I did a little bit of research. I saw a lot of interior shots and events from your Florida location. Frankly, it looked like a tiki bar to me.
Yeah.
I like tiki
Polynesian
bars.
style, yeah.
Yeah, I like tiki bars. Have no idea what kava tastes like or how you dress it up to make it attractive, but very different. The atmosphere and what I saw was very different than a hookah lounge, and we've had a lot of use permit hearings over the years for hookah lounges, whereas you're talking about an indoor facility for smoking things. This is really an indoor facility for drinking beverages that also sells vape products that may or may not be a significant portion of your revenue should it go away. So, I liked what I saw. I didn't see anything specific that spoke to the hours of operation that specifically deal with the hours of any entertainment. And the Horse and Hound was there forever. There's been entertainment, and you've got a huge buffer to the north of you to the residents there, but just what hours could entertainment happen?
So I'll answer that, I'm sorry, because I have the pilot store. And by the way, our expansion started in about middle of year 4, which is the middle of last year. We've added 2 additional corporate stores and 4 franchise stores so far. So we're hoping this could be the 5th one. So we do, open mic is really the big pull for us on a Wednesday night. We do have other nights where we might have a musical band or someone on a stage just singing and playing guitar kind of thing. We typically cut it off at midnight, only just to be, courteous to the surrounding community. Our hours of operation in Florida are till 2 a.m. every night of the week. And if our customers, if we would stay open later, they would hang out with us. It's a later night crowd for sure. Okay. But the music typically will stop around midnight.
And start around, we had said, we're going to cut the hours first during the weekday. We're going to end at 12, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we're going to say 2 a.m. But it all depends on, how it goes, right? I mean, we're not going to sit around till 2 a.m. And we've done some studies, and it's kind of quiet out there 1 a.m., right? Now, this is Arizona, it's not Florida. So we would say from, our projected hours are from 10 a.m. till 12 p.m. during the week, and on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday till 2 a.m. So we'll see how that goes. If we need to cut back, we cut back, but 2 a.m. is the latest I want to be out.
Anything else? Goes with me everywhere. All right, thank you very much, I appreciate it. Thank you. Do we have anyone from the public who wishes to be heard on this case? No cards? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment portion. Commissioners, do we have any further discussion or motions?
Chairman, I would just like to ask that we vote on them, the use permit separately.
Separately.
Thank you.
Okay. You want to start us off with a motion on the one you want to start with?
I will move for the approval of the entertainment, use permit for entertainment.
Okay. There's been a motion made to approve use permit for live entertainment for the chill room. Do we have a second?
Second here.
It's been moved by Commissioner Spears and seconded by Commissioner Casano. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries 7-0. Do we have anyone who would like to make a motion for the second use permit, tobacco retail use?
Move for the use permit for tobacco retail use for PL 220313.
Second? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Moved by Vice Chair Johnson, seconded by Commissioner Lloyd. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Motion carries 6-1 with Commissioners. 6-2 with Commissioners Schwartz. 5-2.
5.
Someone help me do math. I'm going to take my shoes off, okay. 5-2 with Commissioner Schwartz and Spears in dissent. Thank you very much. That concludes item number 6. That brings us to our final item on tonight's agenda. This is item number 9 in your program. This is the Curry Road Apartments. Representing the applicant will be representatives of Gamage and Burnham. Ms. Vaz,
Good evening. Happy New Year to you all.
thank you.
For the record, my name is Manjula Vaz, law firm of Gamage and Burnham, 2 North Central Phoenix 85004. With me is Allison Mills, CRG, who's the developer. We're going to give you a brief presentation. I know you've seen this, so I won't belabor the location. And as Ryan said, we did go to council last week, or last Thursday, just to start the annexation process. CRG, just briefly, who we are representing, is a privately held, nationally recognized development investment firm, and they are starting to build all around town, as you may have seen. We have a project in downtown Phoenix, and certainly this one in the County Island. This is the site in the County Island we talked about, and it is a long site, as we discussed. It has kind of a zigzag to it. It's just west of the Banyan site. And so we've certainly tried to make sure that we have articulation and a lot of kind of activity as trying to manage through designing a long site. This is the current, if you haven't had a chance to drive by, this is what it currently looks like. It's one property owner, but several kind of businesses that are rotating through it, mainly landscape materials. There's some other kind of industrial uses going on in the interior as you get closer to Gilbert, but that's kind of what it looks like. Our request today is to do a general plan amendment to change the residential density from medium to high density, or medium high to high density, do a zoning map amendment to go from GID to MU4, PAD, and development plan review. And then we do have a use permit to allow some tandem parking spaces. This is the general plan, which I won't belabor, and this is the current, as I mentioned, going from the current medium density to high density. So our request is to do a mixed-use development, multifamily. We have 5- and 6-story buildings fronting on Curry, and then a 4-story on Gilbert. We have 343 residential units. We have 5,900 square feet of commercial. It's mainly live work, and I'll go through it in terms of where it is. And then what you'll see, and as we try to break it up, is a lot of resident amenities spread throughout the project. And as I've told you, we went to North Tempe just right before Christmas. We were talking to them, and we put both amenities on either side, both on Curry, which you'll see, so kind of give a nice walking feeling, because one day Curry is going to be walkable. So we're going to start the process, and one day you're going to walk. And we've done some other things that I think will help expand walkability in the site. We have extensive landscape enhancements and 404 parking spaces. Just to kind of go through it, residential parking ratio is 1.1, 0.9 per bedroom, and kind of the live-work space, we have 0.1 space. Here's kind of our site and landscape plan. A couple of things I want to point out, but you'll see certainly a lot of landscaping around the site along Curry, which I can't point anymore, but we'll see we have our sport court, which is pickleball court, right on Curry, kind of to give some access and kind of break the building back, push it back from Curry. The other thing you'll see is you kind of walk through the site. We have a nice walking path through the site, plus, and I'm going to show you in a sec, we have a pedestrian paseo that starts through the site and will go east-west through the County Island that we talked about before. In addition, we have a little dog park, which I'm going to show you, and some other dog amenities. So as we go through here, you can see, again, the pickleball court that's on the south side of the site. And then as you kind of go north, or just go south, sorry, north side of the site, go south, you'll see both the barbecue patio, the pet lounge, and then kind of as we go in the middle, we've designed a pedestrian paseo, which I'm going to show you that I think we talked about this last time, but if any of you have been downtown Phoenix and seen the Taylor Park Paseo, it's a very nice paseo that kind of goes east-west in downtown Phoenix. I'm working with the staff, and we talked to Saparna a lot about this. We did a nice pedestrian paseo that could go east-west through the County Island. And it gives you a nice multi-use path to go both walking, biking, eventually as you kind of build it out. So we're going to start, and you can kind of see going from Scoville on the west side of the Banyan development, And you can see how it goes and how it would potentially, expand through the site, and then we can have the pedestrian connection to Scottsdale Road. And then what we've done is, you'll see we've kind of developed this pedestrian paseo so that we have typical conditions. We have different paving as you cross raised driveway crossings, and then certainly for the pedestrian crossing. And then you can see on our site, you kind of have, we would have building facade, raised planter pots, but it's something that we think could be really interesting and nice as a nice amenity through the paseo to kind of encourage, the development and walking paths through east-west on the north side. So this will give you a good sense of just the different types of paving that we have through the paseo, and kind of a little bit, on our site, and certainly as either we or other people try to expand in the county island, where we've talked to both transportation and the planning department about is having them kind of work with applicants to adapt both the design criteria we've established here and the alignment, which certainly can be moved, but we think it's an interesting effect. So I'm gonna have Allison talk a little bit about the design. It's a pretty modern design, but I know we had some commentary about the design. We think there's a lot of articulation now. We'll let Allison talk about it.
Yeah, so really appreciated the feedback that we got last time. And I think what we heard the most was this concern with some of the longer stretches of this white cementitious panel that we had, because it is such kind of a long, strangely shaped site. So this is the view look from Curry, looking south at the site. And what we've done is introduce some more vertical elements on the area that wraps the garage. So there are larger vertical fins there. The balconies have been recessed, and we've added lids on top of them. And then we've also added a lot more masonry and articulation as the building kind of, especially along that side as you're driving east on Curry, you would see a lot more in the elevations, you would see more masonry instead of this white cementitious panel. Also in this image that you can see, we had a comment to try to introduce more of a crown element and increase the parapet height here. So we did raise the parapet here, which you can see a little bit. So the building has more of a cap. This is the perspective looking from Gilbert Drive. So again, you can see we added a different color of masonry, so there's a lot more articulation here. There's also additional horizontal sun shading on the windows that are facing south as well, to add a little more articulation there. We also did improve the landscaping with some comments that we received there. This is the look along the live work units and the ground floor units on the 4-story building that fronts Gilbert. And so all these units are at grade. And then again, you'll notice that the balconies above have been recessed, and that lid has been added to all of them for shading. Here's another look at our main lobby, kind of the center focal point of the building. You'll see these kind of V-shaped columns. That was an element I think that was well received in the last design, but we did add additional sun shading to the western facade here, and tried to break that facade up a little bit more, and then have this kind of jewel box of an amenity lobby, double height space here that will really be the focal point of the project.
And then just to add to Allison's, and then you can also see there's a lot of glass elements, and on the first floor of this, you can see you can see through to the other side. So it seems much more open. There is no, kind of wall blocking kind of your view to get to the other side.
Right. And then here's just the view on the east side of the project around this kind of pedestrian walk and trail that kind of wanders around the building. That 2-story space is to the left. But also what you can see here, we're going to be changing the paving where the paseo is. So that space will always be kind of set apart and be a feature as that paseo grows across the rest of the county island. But again, just added additional landscaping here. So there's a lot of shading for all the balconies, but also for all the outdoor spaces, particularly around the pool, which is under that double height space. All of that will have really good shading and landscaping around it.
Oh, and then just very quickly, the use permit criteria for our tandem parking. As you said, just to answer these are the tests for the use permit criteria. So we have 30 tandem parking spaces that will not cause a significant amount of traffic in the adjoining areas. They certainly won't cause any nuisance exceeding that of ambient conditions. And we have a limited amount of tandem spaces within the private garages that are limited to the individual units. We won't cause any nuisance as people are working through their parking. And then we don't believe these tandem parking spaces will contribute to the deterioration of the neighborhood or be in conflict with goals and objectives. We think it's compatible with this development, compatible with the existing structures, and they will not result in disruptive behavior. With that, we're happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you very much for taking us through that fairly quickly. The site plan, because of the jog in the properties, was this designed with an intent or with the possibility to, in the future, have future phases that would be part of this, should you be able to acquire?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so east
Yeah.
of Building 1 and,
You can kind of, I mean,
Exactly.
this is, who knows where the future goes, but we have kind of a general plan, I'm just showing up here in terms of what you would potentially see in terms of how layouts could occur.
And we did feel like we had the pulse on these conversations we've had with the owners in the area to understand, which parcels may move first. And particularly when we were trying to outline this paseo and where it would land in our site, wanted it to be kind of the most future-proof for other phases.
and Ms. Mills, as a company, you do more than multifamily.
We do. We have my team just does residential multifamily, but we do have a large industrial development group in CRG.
Are any of these immediately adjacent parcels considered for something other than more multifamily, or is it strictly multifamily?
Right now, we're really just looking at it as multifamily opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, other questions? Commissioner Lloyd?
No question, I just want to comment. I like the fact that you implemented pickleball into the design, so on the record show that. But more seriously, I just want to give kudos to whoever started forward thinking about the paseo to go all the way through out to Scottsdale Road, because, for long-term planning and just for quality of life within these developments, I think that was a really good move, so thanks for that.
Thank you. All right, staff, if you could come up and just kind of weigh in on what would be important to me is just general design, how they've worked with you to improve the design and what kind of a project we think we're going to end up with here.
Oh, can we go to? I got you. Okay. All right, good evening, Commission. My name is Obia Kingsley, Planner 2. So I'll go straight to the elevations. You had a question about that. As Allison and Mangela mentioned, since the last meeting we had the study session, they did include some of the awnings on what would be the west-facing elevation. What's this next one here? I don't know if this point is gonna work. Well, on the east elevation there, they did add the awnings that they mentioned there. They added more masonry materials to the site, as far as particularly the north and south elevation of the building. They added in more color as well to the insets of the balconies. I don't know if you can see that, but they broke up the color pattern with that by adding a dark gray color in the inset. So that's another thing that they did there for us. As she mentioned, they also added the canopy structures over the windows to provide additional shading to the west elevations. On the very top level, that was one of the comments we had last time, is that the top levels didn't have awnings on them. And overall, though, I mean, the applicant worked with staff pretty well to just come to what we felt was a good product, and we like some of the things they did, some of the changes they made since the last meeting.
No concerns, no things that you wish they would have done that they haven't? When I say you, I mean staff.
At this point, we didn't have anything that we felt that they didn't adjust to. They added additional height to like I say, also the north and south elevation, so they worked with us there as well. I don't foresee that there was anything that they didn't address, at least on our behalf.
Wonderful.
As staff.
Commission, any questions? Thank you very much. At this point, I will call to the audience. Do we have anyone who wishes to be heard on this case? Don't see anybody, so we'll close the public comment portion. And I would invite any comments from the commission or even a motion?
Mr. Chairman, just a comment. I appreciate the taking a look at some of those elevations and now adding more shade to them. Not only will benefit the people living in those apartments, but also I think improves the face of the building. It doesn't just look like a hotel. I think that was my concern at the last time we saw this, that, you know, break it up a little bit and make it look a lot nicer, and I appreciate that being done.
I would echo your comments. I appreciate the applicant's willingness to work and to continue to improve the project. It was a good project to begin with, and I think it's a better project now, so thank you very much. Motion? Anyone? Don, you're on a roll.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion for approval of, if I can read it without my glasses, PL 220211, general plan map amendment, medium to high, and use permit for tandem parking. Did I miss anything there?
Zoning map amendment, density map amendment,
Tandem use.
PAD, use permit. Second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Casano and seconded by Commissioners Lloyd. Any discussion? Hearing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. That brings us to the end of our agenda. I'm going to call out, see if we have any commissioner announcements. Joe, you're always doing something. What are we cleaning up next?
We have a cleanup in, not this Saturday, but the next Saturday at Indian Bend Wash, and in the fourth Saturday at Tempe Town Lake.
Okay. And check which website to find out where to meet and what time to be there?
KeepTempeBeautiful.org/event.
KeepTempeBeautiful.org/event?
Yep.
Event. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
With that, staff, anything?
Chairman, I'm happy to read the agenda for January 24th,
Oh, yes,
if you
please.
wish.
Yeah, tell us what we've got.
So we will amend the study session to provide an update to the general plan, technical advisory group meeting, as well as for the regular agenda for January 24th, we have a request for a development plan review for 12,000 square foot addition called 333 at the Watermark location. It's at 430 North Scottsdale Road. We also have a request for use permit standard to allow a 20% reduction to the rear yard setback from 35 feet to 28 feet for Keller residents at 2029 East Caroline Lane. We have a request for use permit standard to allow a 20% reduction to the required side yard setback for the Barrett residents at 1405 East Chilton Drive. I hope I'm saying it correctly.
Yeah.
Chilton. And then we also have a general plan land use map amendment, as well as density map amendment and a zoning map amendment for all three parcels located at 1233 East Lemon Street, 1306 East Apache Boulevard, and 1310 East Apache Boulevard for project named Apache Central.
Thank you very much. With that, we'll see you on the 24th, meeting adjourned.